G'day, welcome back to another episode of Togl. Well, my plan was to go up to the block and mill that big log that I managed to get up onto the mill, but we've had another big rain system move through. The whole of the east coast is getting hammered again, and so is northwest Tassie. So yeah, lots of rain on and off today, and surprisingly it's actually quite warm. It's really muggy, so you know, the warm weather's here. We just need some of that rain to stay away for a little bit longer to make the ground dry out. Anyway, I won't be going up to the block today, but there's still plenty I can do in the shed here. I've spent the morning sharpening up one of the blades for the timber mill and giving the chainsaw a service and sharpening that chain as well. You've seen me do all that in previous episodes. What I did want to show you though is, and I kind of started this project the other week without filming it, so let me backtrack to what I did. This here is the leaf spring system from a trailer. Now, I went and got one of these from a trailer because the metal is thinner, but it's still a high tensile metal. When I say it's thinner than the leaf springs out of a car, and that's what I used to build that other big draw blade. So I wanted to build a smaller draw blade and a lighter draw blade, but still strong. So I went and got this leaf spring system. I cut the brackets off it, and when you do that, the axle comes off, and then you're left with what they call the 6 leaves. All right, and so these were all bolted together. There's 3 here. The other 3 I have already straightened out, and I did that in the fire. So that was the part that I'd already done. So I've got the wood fire over here, the little fire pit. It's not a fire pit, it's like a little pot belly on its side. So I've got that there. So what I did was I got a fire going in there. I actually used the air compressor, pumped air into that to really get the flame nice and hot, heated up the metal, and then it was bent the same as these, and then I belted them flat on a piece of railway line that I've got down there. I just used that like an anvil. So now I've got these 3 that are nice and flat. I then went and got a couple of these tools that you get from the gardening shop, like the little rakes. I'll just cut that piece off of both of them. Now I've got 2 really nice handles, and these were only a couple of dollars each, these tools. So I thought, well, that's a nice cheap handle. The plan then is, it's even got the overlap, I can weld them on like that, which is exactly what I'll do. But I think I might use the middle-sized one, because this is just going to be a smaller draw blade for Kay to use. What I might end up doing with this bigger one is turning that into a nice big chisel for chiseling out big joints as I start to do more framework. Yeah, who knows what I'll use the other little one for, but this metal is really great. It's high tensile, so it should work really well. So before I weld this one, or weld the handles onto this one, there's 2 things I need to do. Firstly, I need to cut the angle, so I need to cut the corners off, but then I want to actually sharpen that into a nice sharp blade, so I'll be doing some work on the grinder with that. So I'll get that sharpened, and then I'll weld these handles on, and then it'll get a coat of paint, red paint, and that'll be just like the other draw blade, but a much smaller, lighter one for Kay to use, or for me to use on much finer work. I might even end up turning that one into a nice little one as well, which would be what they call a spoke shave, and it can be used for doing handles. You get a block of wood, clamp it in, and you can just shave it down to the right shape and make a handle. So I might even make a smaller one out of that. But as you can see, I've got plenty of steel, and I get these for free down at the local caravan place, caravan and trailer place. They do all the refurbishments, so I just throw these in the scrap metal bin, so I can just go down there and get some of them. So I'm going to get to do a little bit of grinding. I'll show you a little bit of it. I mean, you've seen me grind, you've seen me weld, but I'll show you the process very briefly, and hopefully the weather eases up over the next few days, and I'll get to show you a few more other things back up at the block. We'll see how we go. Well, the metal was getting way too hot to hold with those little gloves, so I got them with the big welder's gloves. So I've got a pretty good edge onto that now. I just want to get it nice and even and flat and get a really good edge on it. So I'm going to do that with the belt sander here. And if I just keep it at the exact same angle all the time, it should come up really nice. So we'll just finish it off with that. And there we have it, nice edge. I did muck it up a little bit in the corners, but most of the cutting gets done in the center right near that hole, so it'll be fine. You can see I went just a little bit deep there, but like I said, that won't matter, it's right on the end. The majority of that's looking really good. So time to start welding the handles on. Now, just before I weld this up, it was quite rusty, so I thought I should take the time to use the electric drill and a wire brush and give this all a really good clean. So I've given that a really good clean now. So now I'll just lay these down at the angle that I want them to be, and then once I've got them in the position, I will mark them as to where I want to cut that corner off and that corner off. And then with the angle grinder I can cut those corners off and it will weld a whole lot better. That should work a whole lot better. Right, so I have cut the corners off. I've given it a bit more of a grind. I also thought I should grind off the black paint that was on this. That way it just gives a better electrical connection and it'll give it a better join when I weld it. Like, it'll fuse together a lot better because you don't have all that burnt paint in there. So I've got the handle clamped. It's only the handle that's clamped there. And then I've just popped this into the position that I want it to be in, and then I'm going to get geared up and we'll weld this up. Now I'm going to be MIG welding. Last time I was TIG welding, this time I'm MIG welding because it's a much thicker steel. I can get away with the MIG, and I do like the MIG weld because it just feeds the wire through automatically, as opposed to the TIG where with one hand you're welding and then you've got to feed the wire in. I mean, I do like the TIG, don't get me wrong, but I'm feeling lazy today. It's a wet Saturday morning, so I'm just going to go with the MIG. Well, as I've always said, I'm more of a grinder than a welder, but that's going to be rock solid now. I hope it's going to be rock solid anyway. So now what I need to do is just, I'll get over on the grinder, I'll clean up all of these welds, and then we'll be able to paint it. But yeah, that's going to be a fantastic draw knife. It's nice and light, and I think it's going to work really good. So got a good edge on it as well, really good edge on it. So yeah, I'll just get to grinding this, and then we'll paint it. Right, well, I've left that sit for a couple of hours now, and so it's nice and cold and ready to be painted. Now that that's all been cleaned up, I've just given it a quick wipe down to get the dust off it and whatnot. I'll tape up the handles, and then I'll get out the paint, and we'll just give it a quick coat of paint. And like the other one, I'll probably give it 7 or 8 coats of paint, and then obviously the paint's going to go onto the edge, onto the blade, so then I'll just give that a quick clean off when we're done. So over the next couple of days I'll give that the several coats and clean it up, and it should be good to go. The next time you see this, we'll be up on the block using it. That one up, that's why I left that string out. I'll hang it up inside, give it another coat in an hour or two. It's a 1 hour dry time on this, which is fantastic. Well, I'm up on the block today, as you can see, and that wet weather system is causing havoc right up and down the east coast of Australia and here in northwest Tasmania as well. It was quite a slippery trip coming in onto the block today, so I think it's going to be a challenge getting out, but there are a few things that I need to get done up here that I can still get done when it's wet. First of those is that I want to get that big log milled up, the one that I loaded up right at the end of last week's video. So I'll get stuck onto that. Additionally, today I want to try and very quickly get some sugar syrup into the bees, so I'll need a break in the rain for that. I only need a couple of minutes just to get that sugar syrup in and get them closed back up again. Also, I want to tidy up the little shed down the back there a little bit, and I've got one last section of flooring that I need to put in, so I'll probably get that done as well today, hopefully. And then we'll see if there's any time after that and what the weather's doing as to what I might be able to do. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to mill this log up with the tractor still in here underneath the roof line. I'd rather not take it out into the rain if I can help it. I mean, it's designed for that, it's not a big deal, and if I've got time later this afternoon I may go out in the tractor for a drive around anyway and get a few things done. So I mean, it's not that I don't want it to get wet, but whilst I don't need to, I'll see what I can do. Anyway, I need to get the blade onto the timber mill and get ready to start milling this log up. Right, because the log is so wide, I had to do a little bit of a shuffle around, put them right on back there, bring the tractor up to the front past where the log is. So that's cool, the stuff can still stay underneath the shelter whilst I mill. But what the actual catch is the guide bar. So this guide bar here slides in and out, and obviously it has to be all the way out and it would have clipped onto the tractor if it was any further back. Now the other thing I've noticed is that as I push this forward, I can see that there's a couple of sections where the log is just a fraction too wide. I can't even get the blade up. This section here is going to hit the log, especially up around there. What that means is that I'm going to have to get the chainsaw and just shave the edge off, just so that the whole mill can pass past it. So a little bit of prep work's going to be needed for me to get this log ready before I can actually start milling it. So I'll get that done, then I'll turn the camera back on. Okay, I've got the blade put in. I've shaved off the edge there, as you can see, and I'm going to just start taking some top edges off, get rid of some of that excess. This part here is probably going to be sticking out too far as well, but what I thought I'd do is, if I just take a couple of layers off the top, I'll have a nice flat edge that I can run above, and I can just mark it with a pen. I'll know exactly where to cut. It'll save a bit of the guesswork anyway, so I'll get a few of them off now and get into this. Well, as you can see there, I had to actually cut quite a substantial piece off. Now, the log was actually wider than it was high, and had I been able to, I could have rolled it up and it would have fit in, but it was just such a struggle to get it up here. There's no way I was going to roll it as well, so I've got that trimmed off now with the chainsaw. I should be able to finish milling this up. I also noticed that my battery's almost dead, so I might have to do the rest of the filming on the GoPro, we'll see. So I've just cut this next slab off, and to my surprise, there's quite a large cavity. Looks like there might be a second one forming here as well, but this one here is quite sizable. So it will be interesting to see how much that opens up and how much we lose because of that hole right there. Okay, this one's starting to crack up along here in the middle. The other plank, as I pushed it over, actually cracked as well. We'll see what it looks like as we take this off now and see how big this hole is. So yeah, that's quite a large hole there. There's all of this, look, this is all rotted right through the middle. You pull all that out. It's just all rotted timber. I mean, it would make a really interesting feature if you were making a bar or something out of it. It would be fantastic, but not quite what I wanted for the raised garden beds, but I can always just patch that hole, screw another bit of timber over it, so it'll be fine for my purposes anyway. Yeah, it's interesting. Keep cutting. Well, I can see why it's cracking up this end, because this rot, this hole goes all the way through, right down, and is right down to the bottom. So see, even in here you can see all this rotted wood coming out. This here is all tree roots and stuff. And what I realized earlier was all of this stuff up here that I thought was rotted wood, it's actually leaves. It's all breaking down leaves. Now, I don't know how long it takes for these trees to grow, but those leaves inside there, I mean, I don't know, they could be 50 or 100 years old, who knows. They've just been preserved inside the timber. Might be like kimchi or something like that, but this hole's getting deeper and deeper in there as I dig down, so lots of rot right through the center of this. But it doesn't matter too much, because I'm still going to get 2 decent planks out of it, so I'll still make do with it. It's just not what I thought it was going to be. It's going to create a little bit more extra work. But it's funny what you find inside these logs. Every single one of them's different, with the colour patterns and the faults that are in it. So we'll just keep going. Well, this is what the log looks like now after I've cleaned it all out. Quite a large cavity up through the middle here. It would make a great feature in some furniture or something. You could fill it with resin, but that's not what we're here for today. So it's just going to keep getting cut up into slabs. And that's everything that came out of it. A lot of, there were even some bigger tree roots there. A lot of roots. There was worms in there as well. And then all of those leaves. So, and one thing that you need to remember too is that that cavity was probably a good 5-6 meters above the ground, the base of the cavity. The cavity itself is probably 1.5 meters long. So even those worms and everything that were in there, they were all several meters up above the ground, totally encased in that tree. Quite amazing. Well, there she is, the last 2 slabs out of that log. It's all cut up now. So what I had to do was flip that log over when I got to about the halfway mark. That was a challenge in itself, because it was still bloody heavy. I also had to change the blade, because the blade was getting dull, and when the blade gets dull, instead of cutting nice and flat, it starts to waver up and down like that. As soon as it did that, I knew it was the blade. I put the second blade on, and it's cutting nice again. Also, I had to fill up the water bottle, so all these things slowed me down a little bit, but we're done. So I'm going to get these off. I've been stacking them over there with some straps ready to pick them up with the tractor. I'll take them down to the veggie patch. I'm just outside of the veggie patch. So I'll get them dumped, and then I'm going to clean up the mill, and then whilst it stopped raining, I'm actually going to do a little bit of work around either end of the bridge where it's really boggy. I'm going to clean that up a bit. I'm going to go and get some gravel out of the gravel pit that we've got up the top and try and get some gravel in there. So yeah, I think I'm going to do that. The little piece of floor in the shed, that can wait. It's not a big deal. I'll do that eventually, but this gravel would be really good to get in there. So I'll get this sorted out and then I'll head up there and I'll show you guys up there in just a minute. Okay, I'm just up here on the excavator. I've been clearing out some of that slop, making a channel for the water to drain out, and then I'll fill that with gravel, and I think that's going to solve my issues. So I'll show you a little bit of me cleaning out this muck, and then we'll go up and we'll dig some gravel up. Well, I'm ever so slowly getting that gravel across there. It is a slow process when I have so far to go and get it. Now, you might be wondering too, why am I going up the grassy hill rather than going up the road? Well, there is so much water that's running out of the ground at the moment. It had started to run down the middle of the road again and made it very boggy, and there was a couple of really soft spots where I almost got the tractor bogged. So I thought, well, I can't go up the road, at least the grassy hill. It hasn't had much go on it for probably 6 months, so it has settled in, and for the moment it's working for me. It is starting to get a bit boggy and ripped up already, but I've hopefully only got to make maybe another dozen trips up and back it. Now, as I was coming up here today, up to the gravel pit, I did realise, as I said, that extra water that was coming down the middle. So I had to do probably an extra 30 metres of channeling, like guttering up the side of the road up there. I'll just flick that around up there. So yeah, the water was coming down the hill so fast it was coming out and down the middle. So this channel, this gutter here, had stopped about there. I had to extend it up and around the bend. So that took a fair bit of my time. Now I'm really glad that I actually did this channel, because look at how much water is flowing. That's a lot of water that if it wasn't flowing down that gutter, it would be running down the middle of the road here, straight down and straight onto the dam wall, and it would collapse the dam wall and wash the dam wall away, because that's what it was starting to do in the early days of winter. We've just had so much rain. Now this water, that's like a creek, that's not flowing out of a creek. If I get up to the top of the hill up there, there's no water. It's all seeping down out of the ground and just coming up out of the ground. That's a lot of water coming up out of the ground. Okay, so that's why I'm going up the grassy hill behind me and not up my road. It is starting to get late, so I need to try and get a few more bucket loads of gravel through there. I'll get that done, and then I've got one little job that I need to do in the veggie patch before I head home. So I will show you what I'm doing in the veggie patch next. I'll just go and get a few more things done here first. I'll see you in the veggie patch. Alright, just before we go over to the veggie patch, I thought I'd just show you what I've got done today here, either side of the bridge with that gravel. So this first bit, you can see I've got all the lighter grey gravel in there. Now I am still using the boards just until that gravel settles in and packs down a little bit, because you know, it's all light and airy and fluffy, and so you do sink into it a little bit. But once that packs in, it'll get some rain on it, settle in, it'll be like, yeah, really good. And then over here to the other side, now here's a bit more of a mess. I did dig that trench out right across the front, and I filled that all up again. Now all this water will drain, and that ground out there is actually quite hard. You can see water pooling, but it's quite firm to drive on. So it's basically all the water will drain off in where this gravel is down through here. Again, still using the planks. I'll probably, when I've got time, throw a few bucket loads of gravel around over here just for a bit of extra traction and stuff. But up here is actually quite solid. It was just right on either edge of the bridge where it was a little bit soft. And another thing too, I thought I'd point out, it's really good to see these tree ferns after copping an absolute clobbering all coming back. So all of the tree ferns have got those nice new fronds all starting to grow out. It won't take long. I reckon you give this another 2 years, 3 years max, and this road will look like it's been here for 100 years as everything, all the bush grows back in around it. So yeah, big afternoon. Let's just duck down to the veggie patch. Like I said, I've got one more quick thing to get done down there. I'm getting hungry, and so it's going to be heading home from there. I'll see you down the patch. Okay, last job of the day. What I want to do is put some netting over those seedlings that, well, the seeds that we planted that are now growing into seedlings, just to stop any critters getting to them. By the way, there's all of the timber from that log today. Not bad at all. All right, so yeah, all those seeds are starting to sprout. So we've got those young seedlings. Now, possums can't get in, of course, but things like grasshoppers and that sort of thing could get in and eat them, eat the little shoots. So let's go and see how well they're doing, and then we'll see if this net is gonna fit. And I'm just gonna staple it down with a staple gun. So I can see that the radishes are doing, radishes are going gangbusters. They're doing really good. And yeah, there's a few other things sprouting as well. Let's have a look at them. Okay, so these are the radishes. We did 2 rows of radishes, and then we did 3 rows of beetroot. And you can just start to see some little beetroots coming up there. Some are green, some are red. I'm not sure why the difference in them. Then we did 3 or 4 rows of carrots, which would be these finer ones just through here. They're only just starting to show. I'm not even sure if they're showing up on the camera, but there's carrots through there. And then we did 2 rows of parsnips. So that row up there and that row there would be the parsnips. And then we did a row of turnips, and that would be this row right along the edge there. That would be the turnips. So everything's starting to grow. This is obviously all the root vegetables in there. So let's see if I can get this net to fit. Okay, well, it didn't quite fit, as you can see there. I think because I pulled it tight, it made the edges bow in like that. I can't get those edges to come out. I've obviously just stretched it too tight, so I obviously need to get a bigger piece of netting. It was just something we had left over from when we put some netting over the strawberries up at home. So I'll buy a bigger piece of that. I know what the dimensions are. It's 1.3 wide, sorry, 1.5 wide and 3 meters long. The whole bed 6 meters. So yeah, I'll just go and buy some more netting, and we'll put some more on there when I come up next time. So that's it for now, for this episode. Slightly shorter one than last week, but last week was a very long one. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one as well, even though it was a smaller one and probably a little bit monotonous. It's just a lot of the stuff I have been doing, but it's the work that needs to be done. Anyway, I hope you have a great weekend. Good week next week. You stay safe. I'll catch you guys next week. Cheers.